the New York Times is promoting the right of transgender X-Men MMA fighters like Fallon Fox to beat up women for money, and that it's a national crisis, that Ms. Fox is being prevented from fighting women in the MMA ring. And that seemed kind of nuts in 2013, but by 2015 and Caitlyn Jenner and everything, everybody thought, oh yes, this is the big thing. It's a crisis. So lately, it seems like people are calming down a little from the peak around 2020.
Do you think they're just exhausted?
Yeah, I mean, just kind of the manifold absurdities of things. The boys and men in dresses trying to take over women's sports and just knock girls and women, around on the rugby field or whatever. It's just amazingly obnoxious. And yet the Biden administration is still backing them strongly. And that's people are like wondering, what's going on? We didn't really sign up for this.
Well, you attribute also some of the stigma associated with your promotion of the book, The Boy Who Would Be Queen.
The J. Michael Bailey.
Yeah, that you interviewed J. Michael Bailey, who at the time was also like a person who was noticing things about autogynophiles that you weren't supposed to say.
Yeah, and you were like sort of the first to notice, to call attention to the theories of Ray Blanchard and J. Michael Bailey on autogynophilia, right? As a category distinct from like homosexual, transsexuals.
Right. I mean, there are multiple categories of people who are currently defining themselves as transgender. An important one, because the ones who tend to be prominent in some field before they decide that they're actually a woman, what I call the X-Men, tend to be the late onset male to female transgenders, and they're very interesting. They tend to be high IQ. I've seen one study, or Scott Alexander cited it on his prominent blog, suggesting IQs in the mid 120s, which is very high. They tend to be energetic, motivated, kind of ruthless. So back in 2003, okay, but we're not supposed to talk about them. We're supposed to go with the party line that they always felt like a little girl on the inside, even when they were a Navy SEAL
or an Air Force pilot,
military chopper pilot, like the most ruthless pilot in the Nightcrawler era of local news in the 1990s. The guy who filmed from his helicopter the whole O.J. Simpson white Bronco chase, and just got all he was the dominant news chopper pilot.
That guy transitioned?
Yeah.
Well, okay, I have a question about the transgender issue, because it seems like the other two prominent camps of transgender are gay boys who really do feel like women on the inside and want to be with straight men, and then like confused teenage girls, and the AGPs have like effectively installed themselves as like the spokespersons of the movement. For instance, like we were talking about on an earlier episode about an article that this ex-man Andrea Long-Chu wrote about kind of the moral case for unlimited transitions for children. And in it, she makes this claim that, like, well, transgender people are vulnerable, they're marginalized, they're more likely to be raped. And that's not exactly true. It's true in the case of those two latter groups that I cited, but it's not true in the case of like the Caitlyn Jenners or Jennifer Pritzkers of the world. And I think they have a very strategic desire to collapse those
Yes.
categories. But I guess the question that I have is like, is this model due for an update to account for yet a new category of like leftist new males who transition basically for professional clout and sexual access, as far as I understand it, but are different from the autogynophiles in that they, while they're straight, they don't have any of the other markers. Like they're not older, they're not richer, they don't tend to be married, they're not high IQ, they're not high achieving.
They're just looking to be different. And, they're there are constantly creating new categories. But they're kind of past my time. So, your initial 3-category model is the one I'm familiar with. The autogynophile fetishists, who I call X-Men. I knew one at MBA school in 1981, and he was probably the smartest and also the most arrogant fellow in the UCLA MBA program. But yeah, he was basically a character out of a Robert Heinlein science fiction novel. He explained to me, Steve, I am going to make my fortune in outer space. I'm going to shoot rockets into orbit and do amazing things that'll make me rich. And I'm like, oh, that's great. But it was 1981. I was like, nobody, that's like a 1940s science fiction book. The government owns all the rockets. You can't do that. But I didn't tell him. So he went on to pretty much invent satellite radio, and I ended up sending him a check for $25 a month and so forth. But yeah, he was not. Nobody who knew him at MBA school ever saw him as having any feminine characteristics at all. And but in a lot of ways, he is kind of a Heinlein hero. When one of the several children he fathered came down with a rare disease, he dropped everything in his first career and read medical textbooks and worked out a better treatment for children with that, and made a second fortune off that.
Yeah.
So, it's very impressive.
Yeah, I do want to make the caveat that I'm not like being a hater, and some of these fellas are really like talented, remarkable, impressive individuals.
They just happen to have a sexual paraphilia.
An aggressive and antagonistic attitude to society.
Yeah, so I mean, the concern I have is, if they were just doing it on their own, God bless them. But my complaint with the AGPs is they've covered up the truth about themselves, and that really helps confused and depressed adolescent girls who are looking around. Nobody ever tells them, oh yeah, these prominent men who are cited as examples of transgenderism, no, they weren't assigned the wrong gender at birth. They don't have anything feminine about them. They just have this sex fetish that some men have, but no females ever have, and don't pay any attention to them. And yeah, sure, you're a little worried about puberty, and becoming a woman is a scary thing. But lots of girls have done it before, and you don't have to take these pills and have surgery just because you're a little worried about it. I mean, there's a constant battle to get at the top of the pyramid of victimization, and the transgenders, especially the X-Men, have been, extremely dynamic at elbowing their way to the very top along with the blacks, and the lesbians have kind of been pushed aside, as well. You may be kind of aggressive for a woman, but good luck. Good luck competing with ex-fighter pilots.